My name is Elena Cross. 3 years ago, I left everything behind my title at the most prestigious bank in New York, my place in the family hierarchy, and every illusion that love from them was unconditional. Tonight, I walked into my parents' house for the first time in 2 years. Not because I wanted to, but because an urgent family dinner was called. Urgent, of course, meaning someone else achieved something they wanted to flaunt. I knew the game. The good china was out. My mother's priceless chandelier glimmered like it was trying too hard. The long mahogany table gleamed with old-world authority, and there they sat lined up like judges at a pageant. My father, Charles Cross, former CFO of Limestone Capital, stood at the head of the table, regal, disapproving, already frowning. Beside him, my mother in pearls and controlled disappointment. Next to her, my older brother Nathan, corporate golden boy, just promoted to partner at a massive consulting firm. And then, silence except for the slow ticking of the antique clock behind me. Elena, my father, began using that clipped tone that always meant trouble. "We're concerned about your situation." Ah, there it was. That word. Situation. As if I'd fallen ill, or started a cult, or robbed a bank. I sat down slowly, crossing my legs beneath my plain blazer. No designer logos, no flash. I knew the rules of this game well. Dressed down, speak up. Nathan cleared his throat. "You walked away from a 7-figure job to build an app no one's heard of." He even used air quotes. How charming. And my mother added, "You've been living in that studio downtown?" "Loft," I corrected quietly, "and I own the building." No one reacted. "You were VP at Kensington at 27, Dad snapped. "You had the world at your feet." "Exactly," I said softly, "had." Then I realized I didn't want that world. He looked at me like I'd spoken in ancient Greek. "You threw everything away," he said. "For what a dream, you're 31, not 21. I glanced down at my phone. 7:59 p.m. "Do you even have revenue yet?" Nathan asked. "Or is this another one of your experiments?" I looked at him. This man who once stole my pitch deck and claimed it as his own during college competitions, now playing mentor. "No," I said calmly. "Not revenue, contracts." My phone buzzed. 8:00 p.m. Perfect timing. "You see," I said, pulling my tablet from my bag and tapping on the news app. "If you're curious about what I've been building." I turned the screen toward them. The headline read, "Quantum Shroud secures 4.6B Series B round, led by Titan Tech and Polaris Capital. CEO Elena Cross emerges as cybersecurity's secret powerhouse." My face was there, polished professional. A quote underneath, "We don't sell software. We sell unbreakable silence." Silence. Exactly what filled the room now. Nathan blinked. My mother choked softly on her wine. My father stared. "It's real," he murmured. "We closed the round this morning," I said. "The valuation's already being revised to over $6 billion. My mother finally whispered, "Elena." I stood. "And since you asked, our product isn't just an app. It's a quantum-driven security framework that makes traditional encryption obsolete. 3 Fortune 500 companies have already signed exclusive contracts." Dad's mouth opened, then closed again. The man who once bragged I was his numbers girl was now staring at his own irrelevance. Nathan was pale. "Your office?" he asked. "That's not a rental, is it?" "No," I said. "It's the top 3 floors. I bought the building last year." "Your car?" "A choice," I said, "because stealth builds power, not flash." They didn't say anything, couldn't. "And as for this situation you're so worried about," I leaned forward, my voice still calm but piercing. "I came tonight as a courtesy. Because starting tomorrow, the world will know who I am, and I didn't want my family to learn it secondhand." I picked up my coat. "I have an interview with Bloomberg in 20 minutes. You're welcome to tune in." As I walked out, I glanced back once just to watch them sit there, still trying to make the math work. 3 years ago, I was the family failure. Tonight, I was the CEO of the future. And this was just the beginning. The studio lights were merciless. But I didn't blink. 3, 2, 1? The producer counted down, and then, "We're live with Elena Cross," said the Bloomberg host, Bryce Maddox, his tone reverent but eager. "Founder and CEO of Quantum Shroud, the stealth cybersecurity company that just stunned the tech world with a $6 billion valuation." I smiled slightly. The same composed, quiet smile I'd practiced in mirrors during long nights in my so-called starter loft. Bryce leaned forward. "Elena, most CEOs shout their innovation from the rooftops, but you've remained practically invisible until today. Why?" I looked at him, then at the cameras, then calmly into the world watching. "Because real breakthroughs aren't built on noise," I said. "They're built in silence. And when you're underestimated, you're free to create without distraction." That line would be quoted in at least 12 headlines by morning. Bryce nodded slowly. "Let's talk about what Quantum Shroud actually does. Because what I've read, it sounds like science fiction." "It's not fiction," I said. "It's post-quantum encryption. Our platform doesn't just protect data, it anticipates threats before they happen. We don't react. we prevent. And your first clients are 3 Fortune 500 companies, 2 global banks, and I paused for effect as of this morning, the Department of Defense. Bryce visibly flinched. That's monumental. I nodded. It's only the beginning. After the segment, as the crew rushed to post the clip across social media, I stepped off stage into a flurry of flashing phones and whispered recognition. My phone buzzed with dozens of messages, but I didn't check them. Not yet. Instead, I slipped into the waiting black town car and leaned back, finally alone, watching the city rush by. My assistant Lena had left a folder for me on the seat. Inside were screenshots, headlines, LinkedIn posts, even tweets from tech influencers. Quantum Shroud just redefined cybersecurity. Elena Cross is the real deal, underestimated genius, the next job's number. She's something new entirely. I flipped to the last page. A message from Goldman Sachs. We'd love to revisit a potential partnership. Let us know when you're free to speak. Irony was delicious when served by billion-dollar regrets. The next morning, my office, the penthouse of a building I owned outright, buzzed with controlled chaos. Lena greeted me at the elevator, her hands full of espresso and talking points. The board's thrilled. Stocks are up 45% in pre-market. CNBC wants a live segment. The Times is requesting an exclusive. I nodded. What about the family? I asked. She winced. All 3 called, multiple times. Nathan's assistant even tried booking a meeting through the investor portal. I laughed, persistent. They don't know what to do with you now, Lena said. They never did, I replied. By midday, Quantum Shroud was the #1 trending topic across every platform. That night, I stood by the glass wall of my office watching the skyline blaze with digital billboards. And there it was. A full-screen animation on the side of a skyscraper. Quantum Shroud Security Reimagined. Elena Cross, the woman who reinvented trust. My reflection overlapped the light, 1 foot in the digital world I'd built, the other still trailing traces of a past I'd long outgrown. That was when my brother called again. This time I picked up. Elena, Nathan said. His voice was softer now. Can we talk? About everything. I had no idea. None of us did. That was the point, I said. He sighed. Mom's been crying for hours. Dad, he's confused. We thought you were lost. I was building, I said quietly, while you were assuming I'd failed. There was silence on his end. Then, you know the partners at my firm want to meet you. Maybe there's a way we can... Don't, I said flatly. Don't turn this into business. I'm trying, Elle, to be your brother again. I exhaled, then start by listening. To what? To the part where I didn't need saving. Later that week, I walked into a boardroom on the 63rd floor of the Glasswell Tower, waiting for me. The executive team from Goldman Sachs. 3 years ago, they rejected my pitch deck, said the market wasn't ready. Told me post-quantum encryption was too niche. Today, they offered me a chair at their acquisition table. We're prepared to make a serious offer, said one director. Whatever number you're thinking. I'm not thinking of a number, I said. I'm thinking of vision, and you weren't part of it. Silence. We missed the opportunity, the managing director admitted. I stood slowly. You did, but missing it once is forgivable. Pretending you always believed in it isn't. As I left, I caught my reflection in the mirrored elevator doors. Not the failure, not the dropout, not the disappointment, but the force they never saw coming. That night, I hosted a small dinner not for my family, but for the people who had believed in me. My lead engineer, my first investor, my assistant Lena, who once worked out of a leaky basement beside me when no one else would take the job. We toasted with laughter. No crystal, no pretension. Just connection. Just real. The next morning, Lena burst into my office, breathless. You're not going to believe this. She handed me her phone. A LinkedIn post from Nathan. Proud of my sister Elena Cross, a visionary, a leader, always knew she'd do something big. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my coffee. Always knew, I repeated. Lena snorted. 2 weeks ago he called you a cautionary tale. Now I'm a legacy builder. That's family for you, she shrugged. I smiled. They can rewrite their version all they want, I said. I know the real story. And this story, it was far from over. The invitation came on thick ivory cardstock sealed in embossed gold. The World Tech Leadership Summit, location Geneva, Switzerland. Keynote speaker Elena Cross, CEO of Quantum Shroud. It didn't matter that my name now trended globally. This still caught me off guard. I ran my fingers over the raised ink like it wasn't real, but it was. 3 years ago, I was refreshing spreadsheets in a dim bank office, wondering if breaking away was bravery or madness. Now I was preparing to address 10,000 of the world's top minds and millions more online. 3 weeks later, I stood backstage at the Geneva Grand Convention Center. The hall pulsed with quiet energy camera crews, global media, billion-dollar founders, government tech liaisons. Beyond the curtain, rows upon rows of velvet chairs stretched into a sea of expectation. Front row, just left of center, my parents. Next to them, Nathan, spine straight, trying to look proud. Behind them, Uncle Dorian, the very same who once froze my trust fund for my own good. I could spot the nervous glances, the whispers, the curiosity. They were all waiting for the daughter who'd disappeared, the one they had written off. The announcer's voice boomed through the hall. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Quantum Shroud, Elena Cross. The curtain parted. I stepped into the spotlight. My heels echoed softly across the stage. I wore a simple black dress, no glitter, no logos. Just clarity. Behind me, a 60-foot screen lit up with a slow pulse like a heartbeat. The silence felt like power. I paused at the podium and looked at the crowd. I want to tell you a story, I began. Not about success, but about silence. They leaned in. 3 years ago, I left a high-paying, high-ranking job at one of the largest financial firms in the world. Everyone said it was a mistake. My mentors, my colleagues, even especially my family. A ripple moved through the crowd. I saw Nathan glance sideways, uncomfortable. I wasn't reckless, I said. I was focused. And while they laughed at the idea of me playing with code, I built something no one else could. I tapped a button. The screen behind me shifted into a live demo. A simulated cyber attack data leaks firewall breaches, financial theft. Then came the Quantum Shroud Interface 1 button, and everything stopped, a digital fortress unbreached. This, I said calmly, is the future of digital security. The demo ended, and I dropped the second hammer. This morning, I said Quantum Shroud finalized a $12 billion contract with the United States Department of Defense. The audience gasped. Additionally, I continued, we've launched the Cross Foundation, a $500 million initiative to fund underrepresented tech entrepreneurs around the globe. The screen behind me displayed images of young developers, women in hijab, students in rural India, teens from inner-city Chicago. They had ideas. And now they'd have backing. I glanced again toward my family. Mom's lips were parted, slightly stunned. Dad looked down, his face unreadable. Nathan texting under the table, probably his PR team. But Uncle Dorian was just staring, stone-faced, no doubt calculating what his firm had lost by doubting me. Good. Let him do the math. After the keynote, the media swarmed. Questions, cameras, flashbulbs, I handled it with ease. Until I saw them, my family waiting by the glass wall of the summit's VIP lounge. I could have walked past them, but I didn't. Not yet, Elena, Mom said, stepping forward. That was breathtaking. I nodded, professionally distant. Thank you. We had no idea, Dad said, voice low, what you were building. You didn't ask, I replied. Nathan scratched the back of his neck. You were always intense. I thought maybe it was just a phase. And yet here we are, I said. Uncle Dorian cleared his throat. Your foundation, impressive, if you ever need advisors. No, I said firmly. What I need are allies who believed before it was headline-worthy. He looked chastened. Good. You know, Mom tried, your father and I have talked. We want to reconnect. Try again. I paused. You can attend the gala next month, I said, but as guests, not as co-hosts, and definitely not as stakeholders. They nodded. They understood. I wasn't asking for approval. I was defining boundaries. Finally, that evening, back in my hotel suite, I watched the city lights flicker across Lake Geneva. Lena walked in, laptop in hand. Stock's up again, she said, $475 a share. We just passed a $10.2 billion valuation. I nodded. Also, she added, Goldman's team sent over another proposal. Big number this time. I took a long sip of wine. Let them wait, I said. We're just getting started. A week after the summit, the world had officially changed. Not just for me, but for every woman who'd ever been told her ambition was too much, her silence a weakness, or her dreams too risky. The Cross Foundation had received over 30,000 applications in its first 48 hours. News outlets couldn't stop covering it. I watched from the corner of my office, letting the numbers speak louder than any speech. The past now watched me like a shadow. But it was the future I had my eyes on. That morning, Lena stepped into the room holding a folder with a single name on it. Astratech. A rising AI competitor, once smug about their algorithms, recently not so much. They're reaching out again, Lena said. Worried about your entry into AI-integrated security. They want to discuss a merger. I leaned back, fingers steepled. They should be worried. They offered a generous equity swap, Lena added. But I already know your answer. Decline, I said, and double our R&D spend. We didn't just build firewalls. We made oceans. And they were just starting to realize they couldn't swim in mine. Later that afternoon, a private meeting was arranged. Goldman Sachs, again. This time, they sent their big guns, the global strategy head, the VP of M&A, and their tech portfolio director. 3 suits, 3 smiles, 0 memory of the time they'd dismissed my prototype. I let them speak first. Elena, the lead executive, said, we've followed your journey closely. And frankly, we believe Quantum Shroud represents a paradigm shift in cyber infrastructure. I waited. We'd like to lead your next round, at your valuation. I stood up, walked to the window. The last time I pitched to Goldman, I said without turning, I was told I lacked scale, vision, support. He cleared his throat. That was unfortunate. No, I replied. It was educational. Silence again. Then I turned. We don't need your capital, I said, voice calm but cutting. We've already got more than enough. What we might need is someone willing to listen before they calculate. They nodded carefully. We'll draft new terms, he said. You'll send them, I replied. I won't promise I'll read them. The meeting ended. They left. Respectfully. Almost reverently. And the girl they once doubted, she didn't ask for a seat at their table. She built her own. That evening, I checked the security cam feed from our main lobby. There, pacing in heels far too expensive for humility, was my sister-in-law Nathan's wife, Brielle. Lena raised an eyebrow. That's the third day in a row. She'll wait, I said, same as the rest of them. Just then my phone buzzed. Mom, family dinner Friday, everyone's coming, including Nathan. We want to reconnect, really. Just you this time. Private. For a moment I didn't respond. Then slowly I typed back. I'll think about it. Because I wasn't sure anymore if I owed them closure or distance. Friday arrived, and I went. Not because I needed to, but because curiosity is a powerful thing. The house was the same as always. Perfect, polished, and cold. Mom opened the door with a strained smile. You look powerful. I am, I said gently. Dad stood at the end of the hallway, hands clasped, unsure of how to greet me. They'd set the dining room like a holiday feast, fine china, fresh flowers, the scent of roasted rosemary and apology in the air. Nathan arrived late. He looked sheepish. Not the confident, firm partner I remembered, but a man who had watched the world turn without him. Thank you for coming, Mom said, pouring wine. I came for clarity, I replied. Dad shifted. We know we failed you. I didn't respond. You always had that fire, Nathan said. I just didn't know how to support it. You didn't try, I corrected. None of you did. Mom's eyes welled up. We were scared, she admitted, that you'd crash, that you'd waste your potential. And instead I asked, You built an empire, Dad said quietly. Alone, I replied. They fell silent. I stood. I forgive you, I said. Not for your sake, for mine, but I need you to understand your absence built this. Your doubt carved it. Mom sniffled. Can we be part of it now? I looked around the table, where power used to sit like a crown. Now it belonged to me. You can watch, I said, but don't expect control, not anymore. As I left, Nathan caught up to me in the driveway. Elena, he said, I meant it. I want to learn. I studied him. Maybe he did. Maybe not. I'm building something bigger now, I said. Not just software, legacy. Let me help, he said. I smiled. Help, I said. Start by listening, like the rest of the world. Then I got into the car and left them behind once again, only this time not in anger, in peace. 6 months later, the skyline had changed. And so had I. The Cross Innovation Campus, a 5-building complex just outside San Francisco, was now home to Quantum Shroud and the Cross Foundation. It buzzed with engineers, researchers, students, and visionaries, all of them dreamers, all of them doers, all of them once underestimated just like me. I walked the halls most mornings without a name badge, no security escort, just observation. I watched them brainstorm, argue, draw on glass walls, write code past midnight. This was my victory. Not the money, not the headlines, but the lives being rewritten quietly and brilliantly in these corridors. At the end of the East Wing was a classroom, the Athena Room, a mentorship program I created for young women in STEM. That day we were joined by a guest, a 17-year-old girl from Detroit named Maya, first in her family to finish high school, fluent in 3 coding languages, too quiet, too smart, too often dismissed. I saw myself in her. She asked a single question that hit me harder than any investor meeting ever had. How do you keep going when no one believes in you? The room fell silent, and I answered honestly. You stop waiting for permission, I said. You build like they're watching, but you grow like they're not. Later that week, Lena came into my office, eyes wide. They're back, she said. Who, I asked. The White House. They want you on the National Cybersecurity Advisory Council. I blinked. That's unexpected. Also, she added, the World Bank wants to partner on a digital infrastructure rebuild across Southeast Asia. The decisions were coming faster now. Big. Global. And every one of them meant changing lives on a scale I used to only imagine. But it wasn't just opportunities that returned. So did old wounds. That Friday, I received a handwritten letter from my father. Elena, we watched your segment on CNBC last week. Your mother cried. I felt proud more than I've ever admitted, but also ashamed of how long we refused to see you. I know we lost the chance to be part of the foundation of your success, but maybe if you'll allow it, we can support the legacy you're building now. Always, Dad. I read it twice, then placed it carefully in my drawer beside the original rejection letter from Goldman and the trust fund freeze from Uncle Dorian. Receipts? But also reminders of where I came from and how far I'd gone. 2 months later, we launched our Africa Initiative, a $300 million program to bring encrypted internet access and entrepreneur grants to 5 underserved nations. The press was everywhere, and so was Nathan. To my surprise, he didn't bring his resume. He brought his daughter. "Meet Ava," he said softly. "She built her first app last year, wants to be like you." Ava smiled up at me, unsure. "She already is," I said. By year's end, Quantum Shroud was named most disruptive company by every major tech publication. The Cross Foundation had funded 200 women-led startups. Elena Cross was now a household name. But none of that was the best part. No. The best part came one evening as I stood on the balcony of the Cross campus with Maya, Ava, and 36 other girls from different parts of the world, all staring at a city now slightly less intimidating. One whispered, "It doesn't feel impossible anymore." And I smiled, because that was legacy. At home that night, I poured a glass of wine and finally replied to Dad's letter. "Dad, we don't get to undo the past, but we can write better chapters ahead. If you want to be part of that, it starts with showing up, quietly, respectfully, willingly." The next Foundation Summit is in November. There's a seat in the third row, not the head table, not backstage, just present. You always wanted me to be extraordinary. You just didn't realize I already was. See you there, Elena.